Now, with all this debate over the fiscal cliff, top-end tax hike, and everything goes along with it, there's going to be a heck of a lot to not only debate as to the politics and the keeping score, but also a big debate as it relates to, on the Republican side, who is the voice here that's going to say, this is who we are, this is where we stand for, this is how we get back in power. And I'll tell you one guy who I think's seat at the table certainly has changed. Grover Norquist, the head of Americans for Tax Reform, but the guy you better known as the Pledge. And remember here the No Taxes Pledge? You might have seen him on 60 Minutes where he very gleefully said all the guys that he took down. I think he called them pelts on his wall for people who dared cross him. Well, since 1986, thousands of Republican candidates and elected officials at every level of government, they have signed Norquist's pledge. And in doing so, they promised they would never vote for taxes, and if they dared cross him, they would be guaranteed there'd be a primary and probably a loss as a consequence. But that was before 3 weeks ago, and this is now.
The world has changed, and the economic situation is different.
I will violate the pledge, long story short, for the good of the country.
Well, I'm not obligated on the pledge.
Now, this change in attitude on the Norquist pledge, it goes even further. Take this soundbite from former Republican Senator Alan Simpson, who co-wrote, the whole Simpson-Bowles deficit reduction plan. Listen to what he says about Mr. Norquist.
But Grover wandering the earth in his white robe saying he wanted to drown government in the bathtub. I hope he slips in there with it.
It's one of the best things about getting old. You can say whatever you want here. All right. It brings me to the issue of, are people still scared of Norquist anymore? Or is there enough window right now where they can say, you know what, this guy's making it tougher and tougher for me even to get elected here in the general. Forget my primary here, right? He's making life too tough. And a couple guys go out there that maybe have safer races. Will the floodgates open where people are going to say, I'm not listening?
I think he's gonna keep the fear factor. I mean, people do pay a price. Bob Turner was willing when he ran in the Senate primary in New York to say we may need revenue on the table. He paid a price.
Yep. Ads
came out. I mean, he got hammered out there. The problem when you make a pledge is that your back is against the wall and you end up in a killing zone. I mean, the Democrats were very smart in how they handled this. Republicans made a tax pledge, so what do? What about for the super rich? Rhetorically, your back is against the wall, and then you're defending the super rich for all these. If I'm running a race, and I know a candidate on the other side is essentially owned by the teachers union, I can hammer him or her on anything that the teacher union disagrees with. He can't say a peep, and they're stuck, and you get him in that crossfire. Yep. And that's where the Republicans got stuck in that crossfire.
The thing that made the Norquist pledge so effective is the simplicity of it. It was so easy to understand, so easy to digest. It's just no on any taxes because all taxes are bad.
One sheet of paper was up on the wall, everybody's name.
But the Democrats segmented it.
But the problem is, how do you get away from that?
He's not elected. Grover Norquist is not elected by anyone. It's offensive to the voters of every district in America that this guy, despite how much money he may have to make your life difficult, who is he that an elected official is going to sign a pledge based on what he says?
But he's just one pledge. You run for office today, you get a stack like this. You get 50, 75 groups, all with pledges this thick. You got to write out Sierra Club.
Is there a window? I only got 30 seconds. Yep. Is there a window right now, Bill? Because I remember 4 years ago, after Obama won, a couple lawmakers, they were talking about problems and maybe, meet more in the middle. And I remember Rush Limbaugh ripped a new one to a guy, and literally the guy came on the show and apologized. And we all thought at that time, in the first 6 months after the 08 election, that right-wing radio, and specifically Rush, was the godfather of the party. And then things changed. The Tea Party came in 2 years later, and they became the thing. I don't know. Boehner's never going to be the party leader. He's worried about the House, right? Right-wing radio has lost its appeal, and the Tea Party, they had a lot of losses right now, and they don't have nearly the juice that they had a couple of years ago. Where is there? There's no Lee Atwater out there. The RNC people, who names their kid Reents anyway? But anyway, my point to you is there any person, entity, or whatever that says, I got the recipe here for how we become relevant again, or at least how we get a more relevant message? Who's driving the ship here?
I think there are a lot of people driving the ship. You mentioned Rove before. He's one of them, certainly. With Ed Gillespie, yeah, still. Even with a bad cycle, there's plenty of bright people out there, and when someone finds a formula that works, that's where you go.
translation. There's not a name yet here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to update you on Sandy recovery efforts in our region. I got a nice story for you. Stay with us.